Hi, I'm Dr. Norm, and I'm passionately committed to you being the best you can be. And these are your Optimal Health Essentials, a series of conscious concepts to help you radically empower your life. Years ago, back in Toronto, I was going through some challenging times, and I was speaking with a Unity Church minister. And I was trying to get an idea of how what I'd done in the past had affected where I was today. I was trying to figure out what those things might have been. And he said to me something that I thought was really profound, and that he said, Norm, often what's happening to us now are preparing us for the future. It was an idea that I'd only later fully comprehend. I think it's a truth that resonates with chiropractic as well. See, many of the benefits that you receive under chiropractic care are for things far into the future, like the infection that you never get or the disease that never happens. Many of these things you'll never know about. Sometimes some of the things you do know about. I had one of these experiences about how my wellness behaviors and being under regular chiropractic care supported me so much into the future. That was really obvious. I'd love to share that with you. So I've been under chiropractic care for about 22 years now and been under really extraordinary care. And I consider my body to be a really fine-tuned, flexible, adaptive machine. And I really put it to a challenge one day. And it happened back in Saskatchewan, which is where I'm from. And the weekend before I was to begin as a chiropractor. I had just graduated from college. And on Monday, I was going to go to work as my first day as a chiropractor. I was so excited. And I thought, you know, Norm, one of the best ways for you to get ready would be to go and do a hike and get out into nature, clear your head, get grounded, and get a lot of fresh air and exercise and be ready to go for Monday. So I went up just north of my house to a place called Grey Owl's Cabin, which is a walk around Lake Waskesiu. And to get there, I took my father's motorcycle and brought a 60-pound backpack and went up and hiked for 3 nights. And I'd forgotten about Saskatchewan summers and how beautiful they are. And I'd also forgotten about the mosquitoes and black flies that inhabit our beautiful area up there. So I spent the weekend, looking at some beautiful scenery and doing this for most of the weekend, including the night as well, which left me really tired by the end of it all. And by the time I got done the hike on Sunday, I was tired. At that point, it was quite cold because I was just so exhausted and I was ready to go home. And I thought to myself, you know, Norm, it'd be really great to go into the village, get some food for myself, nourish yourself warmed up, and also get some fuel, some food for your motorcycle as well, as it was a bit of a longer journey home. And I didn't listen to myself, which was my first mistake, and just kind of pushed through the idea of going home for a hot, warm bath was absolutely too intoxicating to nourish myself in the moment. So I jumped on my bike and was riding home. And about half of the way home, my bike started to sputter and it was running out of gas. And so ingeniously, I put my head down underneath the motorcycle to look for the reserve switch. And it wasn't my bike, so it took me a second to find it. And eventually I found it and brought my head up to look where I was going. And sure enough, I was driving straight for the ditch and at 100 kilometers an hour. And I started riding through the ditch and rode it out as best I could, but eventually the bike went down and I started doing cartwheels, head over heel through the ditch, wearing a 60-pound backpack. It was the most incredible experience I've ever had. Each cartwheel that I did, I could feel my spine going click, 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 all the way through. And then the other side, as I was rolling the other way, click, 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 click. My spine absorbed so much of that sudden stress. It was amazing. When I finally came through, I was sitting in the ditch. My motorcycle was way over there. And the first thing I did was I started to account. Actually, no, that's not true. The first thing that I did was just to take a couple of breaths, and I had to squeeze everything together because I would have soiled myself. I was in so much shock. The next thing I did was I looked in and I started to count body parts, right? My left leg's still here, my right leg's still here, my right hand's still here. And I got to my left hand and I could see that there was a problem. I can see energy typically quite well, and especially in heightened situations like this, I could see a lot of energy, and I could see the energy running all the way down my arm, and then it stopped in my wrist. And my wrist was completely limp. I had no motor control whatsoever. I had just broken my arm or my hand. My mind immediately went into the story of what was going to happen in having to go to the hospital, most likely in an ambulance, getting to the hospital, x-rays, seeing the broken bone, a cast, having to go through rehab, the whole bit. And maybe being a chiropractor and adjusting a couple of months from now, the idea was horrific. So I stopped, and luckily I had enough presence in my being to be able to center myself and come back to my spine and take a couple of breaths through and get grounded again. In that moment, I asked myself, maybe there's another option. And it was that question that opened a doorway to a different reality. And I said, if there is another option, what would I need to do? And the first thing I thought of, and what I had known to do and had trained myself, was to breathe. So I began to breathe. The first few breaths that I breathed were so painful as I was opening to all of the stress and the trauma that had just happened. And I began to breathe more and more. And then I got focused on my wrist, and I began focusing my energy and my breath down into my wrist. It was so painful. And I could get my breath all the way to about here. And then I started opening more and more, and eventually I started to do micro movements, little tiny movements in my wrist to help me further facilitate the changes, or to facilitate the integration of the energy through my body. I worked with my hand and I worked with my breath, sitting in the ditch for about 45 minutes. 45 minutes later, I'd regained about 75–80% of the motion in my wrist. Amazing. By the time I went home that night, I did get to have a warm bath and take care of myself, and I continued to work with my body, my hand, and working through the stresses that I had experienced that day. And by the next morning, I was actually able to go to work and adjust a full day as a chiropractor. So you have no idea the investments you make today, how it's going to pay off for your future. You have no idea the different challenges or stresses that may come your way. And if you're living in a scenario where you have just enough resources now to handle what you have, and one more thing gets handed to you on your plate, simply aren't going to be able to handle it. And on the constructive end of this as well, on the positive end of this, if you're living with just enough to get by now, what would happen if you uncovered your passion or a new opportunity, a raise or promotion, or even a new relationship? So do you have an abundance of resources in you now to handle those sorts of opportunities or challenges? For me, I'm so grateful that I took the time and the money and the energy to build the flexibility and the dynamics in my spine and nerve system. I'll never know if my hand was broken or not, but I do know that my body would have been severely, severely affected negatively had I not been under such incredible chiropractic care up until that time. I'm Dr. Norm, encouraging you to invest in your health today for a healthier future tomorrow. Please visit our Facebook fan page where you can sign up to receive free weekly newsletters. And also call our office today where you can find out more about how I can positively affect your life through the power of the chiropractic adjustment. Until next time, be well.